How's it going, everybody? Hope you're all doing wonderful. Hope you're taking some great time to enjoy this wonderful 4th of July weekend. In this video, I'm going to give you a monthly update of this investment portfolio, share with you all of the dividends that I've earned over the past month, as well as how it's performed in general. If you are new here, I give an update every single month to give you complete transparency into what it's like to actually invest in the stock market. I hold a pretty good mix of companies that are fairly diverse. Most of them do pay a dividend. Some of the yields are a little bit higher, but I would say most of them are probably in that 1% to 3% range. Generally, I try to invest in companies that I feel are good quality, where they're able to continuously increase their dividend payout year after year, but also increase their share price year after year. And I think share price growth is something that a lot of dividend investors don't really pay attention to. Many people are just focused on yield, but they don't really pay attention to the actual share price itself. So just a little bit of insight into how I personally like to invest. But with that said, let's take a peek into this portfolio here. So all time since the inception, and I've had this portfolio now for roughly 5 years, but the current value is $43,250. So overall, the total gain has been about $19,300. Over 15,000 of that has come from capital gains. So again, that's that share price increase. And then about 4,000 of that has come from dividend payments. So from a money-weighted rate of return perspective, that's about 106%. Now diving into the past month performance, we actually had a pretty good month overall. We gained roughly $1,500. About $1,468 came from market gain, and roughly 107 came from dividend payments. So again, from a money-weighted rate of return, that's roughly 3.78%. And just taking a look at the graph over the last 30 days, we can see that we actually started out pretty stagnant, not a lot going on in early to mid-June, but then as the month tailed off, we had fantastic performance, pretty much going straight up into where we are today. And a lot of that was fueled by technology and finance. So here in my technology pie, which is just really where I group my technology holdings, we can check that out. And we can see Broadcom had a very good month, over 7% from them. Apple, pretty decent, around 5%. Texas Instruments had an amazing month, over 14%. You rarely see that, so a very good 30 days from them. Technology, a very big winner this month. Also, something that performed very good is finance. Aflac was pretty stagnant, but then we go into our banking stocks like JP Morgan and Ally Financial. Those were up 11 and 15% respectively. BlackRock also had a pretty nice showing, over 10% there. So finance and technology absolutely killed it over the past 30 days. Most other stuff was kind of in that 1 to 3% range, so no real big standouts there. And if we look at the ETFs, this is where I like to put my baseline at. As you'll see in the investment world, a lot of people like to judge their portfolio on how the S&P 500 has performed. They call that the market average. If you're below that, you're underperforming. If you're above the market average, obviously you're overperforming. So generally, something like VTI, which is actually more than 500 companies, but this is where I like to put my baseline. So this month they were about 5.31%. So if we kind of base everything on that, yes, overperformance from technology, from finance, but then everything else compared to VTI actually did underperform a little bit. So personally, that's how I like to gauge a lot of my investments, but overall, most stuff was in the green. Obviously, we can see here that consumer was in the red. Really, that was led by Costco and McDonald's, down 6.5% and 5.8% respectively. And especially Costco, since they have more weight in this particular pie, they're going to drag stuff down a little bit more. So consumer, not the best performance this month. But with that said, let's take a peek at the dividends and see what we actually got this month. All right, so we're going to start off the month with a $16.26 payout from Aflac. I've had this company for a few years now, and they performed fairly well. They pay a fairly average dividend. I just have more of this company than others, so that's why the dividend payout is a little bit larger. Next is Johnson & Johnson, pharmaceutical company. They paid out $7.34. Another pharmaceutical company, Eli Lilly, $2.77 from them. Then we go into an oil company. This is ExxonMobil. And we actually got 2 payouts from them, but it totals up to $3.69. And it's really funny. I started investing in Exxon right around COVID. And if you guys remember, oil and gas companies took a very big hit at that time. It was one of my worst performing companies. But then over time, I just kept buying it, and it's actually been one of my better performers now, because back then you could get it at a massive discount, and then it actually rebounded pretty good. Following that is Microsoft, $2.25. Then we go into 3M, $1.93 from them. Honestly, this company I'm not looking to buy anymore at the moment. They've had a lot of lawsuits recently. It's put quite a damper on the share price. So for now, I'm in holding mode. Realty Income Corporation paid next, and this is a monthly paying company. They paid $6.39. And if you guys aren't familiar with this company, they just hold a lot of commercial real estate. They own the buildings of companies like Walgreens and 7-Eleven, a few other very common commercial chains. And then those companies actually pay rent to Realty Income. So that's how their business is modeled. McDonald's paid out next at $3.56. Then we have another monthly paying real estate company. This is Stag Industrial. They paid $2.68. Electrical utility company based on the East Coast. This is Consolidated Edison. They paid $1.23. Then we go into Home Depot, $4.92 from them. Waste Management, a company I was actually pretty bullish on a while ago. I still am. It's a pretty unique industry, definitely adds diversification to this portfolio. And this month they paid $2.52. BlackRock is next. They paid $8.03. Then we go into VYM. This is a ETF from Vanguard. It does pay a little higher dividend yield. I think they're right around 3%, somewhere in that range. So a little bit higher than an ETF like VTI. But these guys paid out about $15.40. Then we have another ETF, and this is a monthly paying ETF from Invesco. And the total came to $7.58. And then next we got a few different payouts from Brookfield Infrastructure Partners. Total comes to about $6.04. And then to round everything off for the month, we got a nice little $7.66 from Broadcom. As you guys saw, they had a fantastic month. But when we add all our dividend payouts up for the month, the total comes to $100.25. So not too bad. We hit that triple digits. Of course, normally VTI pays out this month, but they're actually paying out in July. So we'll add that in next month. And I show this every video, but I break down these dividend payouts into different time frames. So essentially, I just take the most recent 3 months of dividend payouts and break it down yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, and hourly, just to get a sense of where I'm sitting for these different time frames. So every single month, it's essentially like I'm making $81.29 from these dividend payouts, doing absolutely nothing, completely passive income. So pretty motivating to see, at least for me anyways, regardless of where you're at in your investing journey. Just gives you some pretty good perspective on everything. But with that said, that's gonna wrap up this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out. I really appreciate you. If you did enjoy the video, please hit that like button. And if you want more content from me, you can also subscribe as well. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one.